Okay, now we're going to take our couch here, our sofa. We've got, basically people like to organize their rooms so the person sitting here can watch TV. And this is going to be kind of old-timey, so we're going to be talking about like a little TV, like, about the size of a microwave, sitting on a stool like they were in the 70s, I remember. And it'll be kind of on the opposite side of the room. It can't be too far away, though, because it's so small that if it's all the way across the room, they'd be like this. So kind of thinking it'll be about right here. So let's do some guidelines here. If you want it to be directly in front of the sofa, then what you got to do is find the center point of the sofa, and we're going to draw a line that should be invisible. This line here represents the center of the sofa. So if you want the TV to be right in front of the sofa, the center of the TV has to be at this line. You guys understand what I'm saying with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So first what we're going to do is we're going to build a little stool for it to sit on. Now I'm envisioning a four-legged stool, but it's going to start out as a rectangular prism. And then we'll turn it into a stool. And then we'll build a TV, which will just be another rectangular prism on top of it. And then we'll turn that into a TV. Okay? So we're coming from this direction. So we're going to make a little rectangular prism. The rectangular prism, I think it should be about the width of the legs of the sofa. This is probably about 5 feet here. 5 feet? 5 feet may be a little much. So actually probably 3 feet. So 3 feet's going to be like this distance. So what I do is I set up a perspective line. I'm going to make it about whatever the distance that I think I want. So this distance, as you can see, is a little bit less than the width between the legs of the sofa. Okay, the depth of this thing. Old-fashioned TV was probably about this far from front to back. We're talking about a small one. The bigger ones were more like this. But this is about 1.5 feet. So 1.5 feet in this context is exactly half the width of the sofa. We said the sofa was 3, so we're talking about this distance right here. So I'm going to make it this distance. So I'm going to make completely flat line parallel to the edge of the paper. One here, the other one here. The top one, I'm going to make it longer than it needs to be, and then I'm going to erase it. So I've got one perspective line and two parallel lines. I'm going to turn this into a rectangle. It's a rectangle that looks like a parallelogram, or actually a trapezoid, but it represents a rectangle. I do that by using the vanishing point to create this line and erasing the excess. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some height for my stool. As I remember, most of these stools where the TV sat, usually about 2 feet off the ground. So 2 feet is probably about the same height as this. So if I look at this height right here, and come right to here, it's going to take me to approximately right here, about the same level as my line here. Your line may differ. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make vertical lines from here. Make 4 of them. I'll make all of them taller or longer than they need to be because I'm going to change them. Okay, so do these 4. Now these two, this one and this one, the front ones, are the ones that I was thinking of as being the right height. The other ones are the ones that will be altered. So what I do now is I create perspective lines to represent the top and edges of my little stool. So these are my perspective lines. When I've drawn my perspective lines, I can get rid of my excess and then I can finish my box. Now that I've got it, this is my rectangular prism. I'm going to get rid of everything that shouldn't be visible. Oh, actually, I do need that line. Silly me, I need that to be the top front. It's not just the wall behind it, but it actually lines up perfectly where the top of the front of this is. I'm going to get rid of everything I shouldn't be able to see, which is all of this. So, get to erasing. Get rid of everything that shouldn't be visible. And we're left with this box. So it looks like somebody just left a big rectangular prism right in the middle of the room. Okay, now this line isn't necessary anymore. This line was to get us centered, so we can also get rid of this. And we've got a rectangular prism. Alright, to give this thing legs, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw, I'm going to freehand these. I'm going to turn this into legs. This one here is very difficult because it's got to be so narrow. It comes up to there, then we get a perspective line, which is even more challenging. But I'm freehanding it. I'm not really worried about perfection here. It's about getting the basic idea. And you can make it dark. You don't have to. This is a little bit more advanced technique here. You're starting to think about the shadow that something's casting, you're definitely getting advanced. Okay, and then this other leg here actually needs to come down. You need to be able to see it. So here's the thing about it. Where's the bottom of it? Well, the bottom of it needs to be parallel to the bottom of this one. So I'm going to find the bottom of it right here. The bottom of it is going to line up with the vanishing point. This is one of those tricky things that people don't always consider. If you make it the wrong height, it's going to look like it's not touching the ground. But as you can see, the bottom of this one here, it's going to be the same as the bottom of this one here. So you can sort of see where their bottoms are. Okay? You have to make sure that you're putting them at the right height, or it's going to make it look like one of the legs is not touching the ground. And that's very common to see tables that look like one of the legs is off the ground in one-point perspective drawings. Okay, so we've got it. This is our little stool where the TV is sitting. So now the television is about the same size as the stool, and it's going to sit up here. The top is going to be right here. The bottom is going to be right here. Television, again, is another rectangular prism, at least essentially it is. We're going to use these 2 points to represent the front of the television. And I think instead of going all the way back, because it really wouldn't go all the way back, we're going to go most of the way back and use these 2 points. Recognize that I select these 2 points, and they have to be in perspective. They're not literally right above one another. They're in perspective. Okay? So now I'm going to draw 4 vertical lines to represent the television. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get those 4 vertical lines. This is the basis of the rectangular prism that's going to become our television. So these 2, well, this one especially represents the correct height that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make perspective lines like this one right here, getting rid of this. This one coming straight across, getting rid of this, and another perspective line here, giving us this. And I come across to bring it together, and my rectangular prism is finished. Once I have my rectangular prism, again, I get rid of the lines that should not be visible. And we've got a box sitting on top of a table. Alright, so if this is going to be the screen, are you going to be able to see what's on this television? No. What's it going to look like?
Black.
Black. Now, does the screen take up the entire face? No, especially in those old ones, right? And was it a perfect rectangle? No. If you imagine it, it kind of looked like this, right? Now, drawing this in perspective is kind of a neat challenge. We're going to have something that's kind of like an oval. It really doesn't come that close to the edges, but especially what it does is it kind of has to lean in the direction of the vanishing point. So it's an oval that leans in the direction of the vanishing point. So a big version of it is going to look kind of like this. You understand what I'm saying? So that this being the top and the bottom, they have to lean towards the vanishing point. That's what's going to give it its character. So I'm getting rid of these. Those are just examples, big ones for you to see. I'm going to fill this in black. And then because this is one of those old-timey TVs, the old-timey TVs, they always had this lump on the back. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. The old-timey TV kind of went like this. There's no reason to draw this in perspective because it's kind of a free-form line. But now it really has this look of a television. And then we're going to add a little disc on top. What's going to come out of here? Antenna, yay! Woo. And we got our television.
Cool.
Okay, so we've got our sofa, we've got our television.